all those moments will be lost in time.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. Before I get into this video, I tried styling this wig in 3 different ways and it just kept looking worse and worse, so I just gave myself the same advice I give to my friends who are in dead-end relationships: stop trying and move on. So here I am. Anyway, I figured when I came back we could talk about something a little bit silly, just because it'd be nice to not talk about murder immediately. So instead, we're going to talk about something that actually is pretty dark too, it turns out. Funny how it always ends up that way on this channel. This interview with the girl who is engaged to her own father is uncomfortable, to say the least. I don't think I have to tell you who published this interview. None other than the flaming garbage fire that keeps on burning bright into the night,
Cosmopolitan.
Right before we get into this, if you've been here for a while, you know that I use holy setting spray because I don't have holy water to protect myself when I come across disgusting, cringe, overall uncomfortable content. So we're gonna do that, then move on. Okay, so I've talked about genetic sexual attraction before on my channel, but I'll read you what they say. Genetic sexual attraction, also referred to as GSA, is an awful, widely unknown concept, often affecting members of a family who have been separated for most of their lives, usually due to adoption. It is something that a person can feel great shame about while being unable to control their feelings. The term was coined by a woman called Barbara Gagno years ago when she felt an overwhelming sense of sexual desire after being reunited with her birth son, Mitch, who was adopted as a baby. Now, for some reason, anytime I comment on this topic, there's usually someone who asks me why I don't approve of incest, which is an interesting thing that I didn't think I'd have to answer in 2019. My main problem is on a moral scale, because of course there's the argument of what about if they have children, blah, blah, blah. But even if they don't have children, morally speaking, it disturbs me. I don't know why I'm explaining this. But anyway, I think one thing we can all agree with, even to the people who are in favor of incest, is that I do think it is a tragic thing to be attracted to someone in your family, because of course, some people might enjoy it, but I'm sure there are plenty of people with GSA who do not enjoy it and wish they weren't. So I do think we can say that this is overall tragic no matter what. I'm briefly going to summarize the first 2 questions because they're kind of a history. So this person's mother and father had her when she was 18. The mom got pregnant. She was conceived on prom night, and the relationship essentially did not work out. The dad was not there when she was born. The mother has psychological problems, including bipolar disorder, and the relationship just didn't work. So the father really was not in the picture. Then when she was about 3 or 4, the father was kind of there briefly until she was 5 years old. There seemed to be a consistent arguing between the 2 parents about visitation. So it does seem like there were a lot of problems, and the bottom line is that the dad just really wasn't there and present as a paternal figure. Can you remember much from your time with your dad when you were little? Now, this usually would not be a weird question, but when the title of the article is that they're engaged, it's like, can you remember a time where your now fiance was your dad and was spoiling you when you were a kid because you have a pretty large age gap because he's your dad?
Walk out the door, you see someone that you know and they ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
I have some memories. He spoiled me rotten. I had this giant storage tote of Barbie dolls, and I had my own Mary-Kate and Ashley bedroom. It was a little girl's dream. We'd sit in the yard blowing bubbles together, and he took me to the zoo where he bought me a stuffed animal that I kept until I was 16. I ended up washing it and stupidly put it in the dryer, which melted all its fur. I remember he gave me a miniature tea set. I still have it. Again, all of this would be really cute and cool, but in this context, it's grim. Why didn't your father try to get in touch with you? My mom said he didn't want to have anything to do with me, but she was very controlling and kept me under Fort Knox-like conditions. She's had my Facebook password since I've had an account. One day after I got my Facebook privileges back, he added me as a friend. At first I figured it was my grandpa because they have very similar names. I thought maybe grandpa got techie. Then I realized it was my dad. I was like, oh my God, where have you been? I don't know if I can get close to you. I told him I thought he was dead and asked why it took him so long to contact me. He said he'd been adding me on Facebook, but I'd always decline his requests. But that was my mom controlling my account. After we reunited, he showed me emails he'd sent trying to contact me. Ah, yes, the deadbeat father reaching out on Facebook. That's actually, ironically, exactly what my deadbeat dad did. I'm not going to say to not contact people via Facebook, but it's always a little bit weird when it's a parent being like, hey, what's up, when they've been MIA for 15 years. Just saying. Anyway, I have to say what the mother did was fucked up, especially when it comes to choosing if she wants her father in her life or not. I mean, like, of course there are maybe circumstances that we don't know about, you know, where he did shitty things and the mother was trying to protect her, but I do think it is fucked up that she kept declining his requests and not even letting the daughter know, like, hey, your dad, you know? What happened next? We chit-chatted online for a few days and found out we were similar. We shared the same favorite TV shows, The Simpsons and The Big Bang Theory, and we both loved to draw. He came to see me about a week later. You wouldn't have believed we hadn't been around each other for 12 years. He came and hung out all day, and then I asked to come spend a week with him. He lived in a small town about 30 minutes away. I think my mom knew I was going to move out, and it was really getting to the point where I needed to escape. She was so controlling. No matter what, it's not okay to be overly controlling, but it seems like there are some underlying issues here that, you know, maybe aren't fully discussed in this article. So can you remember what it was like the moment you and your dad were reunited? Was there an instant attraction? Oh no, I don't want to read this part. It was so weird and confusing. I was seeing my dad for the first time in forever, but it was also like, he's so good looking. And then I was like, what the hell are you thinking? What is wrong with you? I saw him as my dad, but then also part of me was like, I'm meeting this guy who I've been talking to over the internet and really connecting with him, and I find him attractive. I definitely feel like in situations like this, there's almost a disconnect where, you know, people stop being overly aware that someone's their father or, you know, whatever family member. Obviously, if you've not been around that person, they don't feel like a parent. Like, my father to me doesn't feel like a father. They're just a stranger. I'm wondering if, you know, she almost sees him as a stranger, and for that reason, the usual barrier that's put up of, I'm not attracted to a family member, just isn't really there. Was there a single moment you realized that you were sexually and romantically attracted to your dad? After I'd stayed with him for about 5 days. Oh, Lord, okay. Okay. What happened? He was living with his girlfriend. On the first night, he slept on the couch and I slept on the floor just to make sure that I was okay. Sleeping in new places makes me very anxious, so I asked him to stay with me in case I had one of the terrible nightmares I usually experience. The second night, I had him sleep on the couch again, and then the third night, I fell asleep with him on the floor, lying on his chest in his arms. The fourth night rolled around and we ended up on the floor again. This time, we actually cuddled. When he woke up, we were spooning. I didn't know this at the time, but later, after we admitted our feelings, he told me he had morning wood and had gone to fix it.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Looking at this case as someone who does not have GSA, who has never been attracted to a family member, thank God, genuinely weirds me out that this all happened so fast. And of course, in normal relationships, in non-incestual relationships, of course things can escalate quickly, you feel a connection, whatever. But in my mind, if I had a father, which I do, who was never there for me, it would never come to mind that I would be so close to them physically. Like, already a hug would probably feel uncomfortable because I'm like, who the fuck are you? And even if you had this connection like via your chit chat on Facebook, I just find that a little bit strange. Do you mean he went to masturbate? Great. I really wanted to know that part too. No, he just went to pee. He didn't want me to see that he had an erection. Later that day, we went shopping because I had grown out of all my shorts, so I asked him if he could buy me some new ones. I was trying them on and asked him how I looked, and he said I looked good, and I felt like I was picking up on something more, but I pushed it out of my head. That night we were play wrestling in the room I was going to sleep in, and I bit him. He was wearing a pair of baseball shorts and a tank top, and after I bit him, I could see goosebumps pop up from his toes to his shoulders. Then he pinched my inner thigh and I got goosebumps. Okay, wait, how old was she again? I'm starting to get a little bit freaked out. How old was she? So she said that she saw him until she was 5, and then she said that she hadn't seen him for 12 years, so that would make her at least 17, right? Please make her at least 17. Like, that's not the only appalling thing about this story, but it would be doubly appalling if it was incestuous and then also with a minor, so please God. I'm not going to look into that too much further because I really don't feel like I want to handle that extra layer, but I'm just mentioning that. We stopped and said we didn't know what was going on, but admitted we had strong feelings for each other. We discussed whether it was wrong, and then we kissed, and then made out, and then we made love for the first time. That's when I lost my virginity. Okay, but imagine being able to actually say this and be telling the truth, saying that you had sex with the same person who helped make you, who helped birth you. You had sex with the person who probably had sex in the back of a car that we know was on prom night with your mom. So you and your mom are, what is it? Eskimo brothers? Is it the same for girls? I don't know, whatever, you get what I mean. You had sex with one of the same people your mom did, and the fact that it was also the first time, like, that also troubles me, because for a lot of people, the first time is a big deal. Just imagine going on a date if this doesn't work out for some reason, and someone, you know, like, and when you get to know each other, they're like, oh, so, like, who was your first person you had sex with? Imagine having that conversation with someone. Did you tell him you were a virgin? Yes. I told him I wanted him to be the first person I made love to. We talked about how it could be awkward if it didn't end up working out. He also said that if I didn't feel comfortable at any point, I should tell him. Tell your dad you're uncomfortable in the middle of having coitus. I feel like this is so troubling to me, like the whole thing. Also, just mentioning, but we don't know this from the father's point of view, but he also seemed very quickly inclined. And like I said, sometimes people have feelings that evolve quickly, but I'm just saying he seemed really quick to hop on. No pun intended. What was it like? Prepare yourself. There's a reason I lost my virginity to him, because I'd never felt comfortable with any other man. It was insanely sensual. It lasted for about an hour and there was a lot of foreplay. We both had orgasms. We were so similar, so it's easy to sexually please each other. For example, we both love neck biting. I've never been in a more passionate, loving, fulfilling situation. Okay, then they talk about the first time and that being uncomfortable and all that shit. And honestly, I'm just gonna skip that for both of our sakes.
Disgusting!
What was it like afterwards? It wasn't weird at all. It felt so natural. It didn't even feel taboo. I felt like I just made love with a man who I'd been with for years. Is the father-daughter dynamic part of your sex life? Not usually, but it has come up a couple of times when one of us blurts out baby girl or daddy or something. Last time it happened, we both stood up and stopped doing what we were doing. It caught us off guard.
Well, imagine my shock. Well, imagine my shock. Imagine my shock. Imagine my shock. Well, imagine my shock.
It saddens me to say this, but that's probably the least weird thing about this entire thing. The fact that they have a daddy little girl thing is the least surprising thing here so far, I'd say. How quickly did he end things with his girlfriend? We made sure to move out of the girlfriends immediately because we knew we couldn't be together there. Before her, he was with a woman for 8 years, and now she's our roommate. Talk about awkward for the first 3 months. Did you tell her about the nature of your relationship? She found out when she heard us making love. I guess we didn't realize how thin the bedroom floor was. She really didn't mind. Now we're like a little family. She calls me her daughter. I feel like this is the point when I get up and have a shot of vodka. Is it even an appropriate time to do that? It's 1:40 in the afternoon. I feel like if I wanted to have a really strong drink right now, nobody would tell me I was wrong, because I am absolutely mind blown. So not only is she in a sexual relationship with her father, they have a roommate that was with him for 8 years who now lives with them, and she calls the daughter, who is now with her ex-boyfriend, her daughter? What? No, this is cursed. This is the most cursed image I can imagine on the internet. I want to think this isn't real, but I've seen too much shit at this point, and I know that it can be. Oh my god, imagine being the mom in all this. Like, the mom sounds controlling and everything, but imagine being the mom finding out that your daughter is in a sexual relationship with her father, and they're living with a woman who used to be the father's girlfriend, who now calls your daughter her daughter. You're engaged? I'm planning on a full-on wedding, but it won't be legally registered. No shit. And personally, I don't believe you need a piece of paper to prove that you want to be with the person you love. When you get married, you're signing a part of yourself over to somebody. We'll tell everybody that we got our marriage license, but they don't have to see it. One of our friends will act as the celebrant. Okay, so then it goes on to talk about, like I mentioned before, the typical argument. Do you worry about the potential genetic problems associated with having kids with your biological father? Nope, I wouldn't risk having a kid if I thought it would be harmful. I've done my research. Everybody thinks that kids born in incestuous relationships will definitely have genetic problems, but that's not true. That happens when there's years of inbreeding, like with the royal family. Incest has been around as long as humans have. Everybody just needs to deal with it as long as nobody's getting hurt or getting pressured or forced. Now, I do agree with that. As much as I do not like the idea, I think it's morally troubling. If you want to do it, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. I'm just going to feel weird about it. But if you hooking up with your dad floats your boat and nobody's getting abused, then I wouldn't say be my guest, but just close the door, pull down the blinds. As long as I don't have to see it, we're good. There's so many people having kids who will be passing on health problems, people with diabetes or mental health issues or AIDS. My mom was allowed to have kids and both her and her mom were bipolar. My research tells me that the only real genetic risk is high blood pressure, which is controllable. I'm not really a fan of this comparison of people with mental health issues or diabetes or AIDS because you don't really choose to have those problems, and I mean, in some cases, I guess you can cause them yourself. You don't really choose to have those problems, you choose to have an incestuous relationship, so it's not exactly a fair comparison, but moving on. So there's one last question, and then there's a whole ass interview on another website, which I'll link down below, but I think that's enough for me today. Asks if she was ever sexually abused, and she said she wasn't. The only thing that happened was her great-great-grandma's husband touched her on her inner leg when she was 4, which contextually could be creepy unless he was like lifting her, you know, handling a child. But apparently she told her father and he called the mom, and the father took her to a children's hospital to get examined, and there were no signs of abuse. So it doesn't seem like this is one of the cases that came out of something like that. What I really hang on to is just the idea that someone does not have the same barriers. And like I said, that's not me saying that they're pieces of shit as much as it's like I just can't relate to it, and I'm sure most of us can't relate to seeing any family member, whether we've connected with them or not, in that type of way. Because for me, it's like as soon as you know that someone's related to you, it's a shutdown, you know what I mean? So it's difficult for me to consider, oh, thinking like so-and-so is attractive and they're also related, you know? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you think the marriage is gonna last? Do you think it's healthy? If so, please explain why, because I'd love to hear those opinions, though I'm sure they're coming my way anyway. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and let's get right into the fan art.